Good evening, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to my evening news report right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. Furloughs hit National Visa Center workers at Pease. What the union president is calling a nightmare situation at the National Visa Center. Its federal contractor is telling employees they can volunteer to use their vacation or sick time and then apply for unemployment, or furloughs will begin with the least senior workers to meet social distancing guidelines during shifts. The concerns of United Electric Radio and Machine Workers Local 228 also include an alleged inadequate supply of sanitation products at the 32 Rochester Avenue building at Pease International Trade Port, and an alleged lack of consideration for employee well-being during the growing COVID-19 pandemic. Virginia-based LDRM, which last September was awarded a 5-year, $388.9 million contract from the U.S. State Department to assist in managing the NVC and Kentucky Consular Center, said in a letter to employees this week that such changes are not intended to be permanent, and the health of you and your families are our number one priority. UE Local 228 President Lori Levine said her union has been trying to communicate with LDRM since the onset of the coronavirus crisis, as the NVC has a large workforce in 2 buildings. Though the U.S. has essentially closed its borders during the pandemic, meaning no new immigration petitions at this time. But NVC employees are expected to continue their work in addressing the nation's backlog. The State Department this week announced it is suspending routine visa services in most countries worldwide, yet the NVC remains open. UE Local 228 represents approximately 550 employees at the NVC. Levine said the ongoing situation has had some people in tears. Several employees of the NVC contacted Seacoast Media Group expressing concern over the current work environment and LDRM's alleged handling of the situation, but asked to not be named due to fear of intervention at work. Reached for comment Friday, Zachary Knight, international representative for UE 288, said the union recognizes that everyone's priority right now has to be public health and safety, and all of us doing our part, and we recognize that unfortunately that means there will be hardship for our members. Our fundamental expectation, though, is as we have to choose from a menu of bad options that the company will meet and confer with us in good faith and meet with our members to minimize those impacts. Knife said as of Friday the following a list of demands sent by the union. LDRM has not responded to any request for information or discussing of financial impacts on employees. On complete back out, Knipe said. Multiple requests for comment from LDRM, its individual staffers, and the State Department by Seacoast Media Group went unanswered Friday. Levine said she began sending emails to LDRM when the coronavirus began to reach the U.S., asking them to take the situation seriously. There were people that were concerned, scared, she said. They didn't have answers. I must have emailed them 10 times, no response. We finally did get an email back that said, we are monitoring the situation, and it was like, okay, so are we, but what are we doing at the NBC to protect your employees? Levine described the work environment at the NBC as right on top of each other, with employees stationed at cubicles in close quarters. She alleged an abundance of cleaning and sanitization supplies like hand sanitizer or disinfecting wipe on site. This week, in a notice to employees, an LDRM staffer notified of an ordered reduction of first shift by 1/3 first shift workers 6:30 a.m. to 3 p.m., while second shift workers 4 p.m. to 12:45 a.m. We will be asking volunteers to take the first shift on Friday off as paid if accrued or unpaid leave so that we can ensure that our staffing on the floor does not exceed 33 for the NBC, wrote William Yates, the SSS program manager. Those employees who take unpaid leave will have the option to flex their schedule and work on Saturday, March 20th to make up the hours. If we do not receive an adequate number of volunteers, we will be required to furlough a number of employees to ensure that we do not exceed the maximum floor staff. He continued, should furloughs become necessary, we would identify those employees having the least seniority as the first to be furloughed and continue that process until we reduce the total working population to the maximum level permitted. Please note that any person who takes unpaid leave or who is furloughed will have the option to work a shift on Saturday to recap those hours. Levine quantified this order as approximately 150 first shift employees would be either moved to second shift, asked to take leave, or made to take leave. We said, okay, we understand you have to do something here, but why aren't you paying these employees that you're sending out? She said. Levine said she was informed by management that the State Department will not reimburse them for employees to be paid during the furloughed, like it typically does when the NVC closes during snowstorms, for example. Yates wrote management was informed this week by the State Department that we must quickly comply with the CDC recommendation for staffing slash density slash social distancing. We regret the inconvenience that this will cause, but adherence to the decision to decrease staffing distancing is not optional, he said. It is intended solely to protect all employees to reduce exposure risk. Levine noted the specific predicament of a husband and wife who work at the NBC, one on first shift and the other on second shift, with 3 children at home. They are being told to be sick and vacation time and then apply for unemployment, she said. Bill Ladd, UE Local 28 Chief Stewardess for the first shift, said he is preventing quarantining at home because his elementary-age son has cystic fibrosis, among other medical diagnoses, meaning he can't afford to catch something at work and bringing it home. Ladd said the last of his sick days will be used for the time off, and then he'll have to file for unemployment under the emergency guidelines declared by Governor Chris Sununu. On Thursday, UE Local 228 sent a list of demands to LDRM seeking to negotiate changes to working conditions and staffing decisions. One ask is paid leave and continuing of benefits for all employees who are infected by the virus under quarantine, including self-imposed quarantine following likely exposure to the virus. Protecting prevention isolation for elderly or vulnerable employees and those living with others who are elderly or vulnerable, and providing care for children due to the school and daycare closures. These companies make hundreds of millions of dollars on these contracts, Knight said. We want them to set up and share some of those profits with our members during this difficult time. Knight said if the furloughs have to take place, the union is requesting a rotation of employees, so no single group of people has to bear the brunt. The demand is employees to be furloughed for no more than 10 business days at a time. Though Knight feels they are especially far from this demand, the union is asking for the option of telework. We have lots of members who absolutely, if you gave them a laptop and connected it to Wi-Fi, they could do their jobs from home, Knight said. He added, we just want a place at the table. Knight this week contacted New Hampshire's congressional delegation, to whom he wrote, despite very strong wage increases in their union contracts, virtually all of our members at the NBC are still living paycheck to paycheck. Knight noted union members at the NBC are not covered by the Family's First Relief Bill or other pending Senate bills, as last reported, because LDRM has more than 500 employees and falls outside of the Small Business Administration definition of a small business. Knight asked the delegation to sponsor legislation that would provide UE Local 288 members with paid leave. Reached for comment Friday. A spokesperson for Senator Jeanne Shaheen, Democrat of New Hampshire, said Senator Shaheen's office is urging the State Department to immediately issue guidance to its contracting companies and their employees working at the National Visa Center and the National Passport Center in response to the coronavirus health crisis. We are facing a national public health emergency. Families should not have to choose between their jobs in public service and protecting themselves and their families. The office of Rep. Chris Pappas, Democrat of New Hampshire, is also involved. Congressman Pappas's office has been in contact with the National Visa Center in Portsmouth and State Department officials regarding these concerns, and we strongly urge the State Department to provide the necessary health guidelines and information to employees and contractors that will keep them safe as we face the unpredicted health crisis of the coronavirus, said Pappas's spokesperson. Sunu News spokesman said their office has been in touch with the NVC and several workers. He noted employees who have seen their hours reduced can still apply for unemployment benefits, though the state under Sununu's executive order. And that does it for my evening news report right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great evening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow with more news reports. Good night and bye, everyone.